All right. What's up, Bulldogs? Welcome back to another live stream. So I hope you guys got your questions ready. We're going to wait a little bit before we start really rolling into this for some more people to get on here. But welcome. Let me see. Taking a look to see who I see here. I see Human Typhoon 91, Marco. What's up, Marco? How you doing? Let me see. Wish there was a better view where I could see all the chat better, but I don't think there is. There we go. That'll work. All right. Jose, what's up, man? Florin, how's it going? So yeah, so let's start off by talking a little bit about the book. So for this month, the book is going to be The Way of Men. I don't have it in front of me right now. I've got the audio version and the Kindle version, but it's by Jack Donovan. And I've actually got him. That'll be the interview. I just had an interview with him on the channel, so that's what's going to come out this month as well. Really good book that really talks about masculinity and what it actually is, which I think if you haven't read The Way of Men, it'll probably change your perception of it. It changed my perception a lot. Something really interesting. I think the confusion between being a man and being a good man, which is easy to confuse. So that's the book for this month. Again, I think it'll be really good read for those of you that haven't read that. So, all right, looks like we got some more people in here now. Let's see. So what we can do is let's just start opening it up for some questions here. So if you guys have some questions, you can either jump on and ask me the question directly, or you can drop your question in the chat here. I'll put the link if you want to jump on and ask a question. Let me see. All right. So Florin says, when you create a process to achieve a goal, what are some guidelines for keeping the amount of time reasonable? And also, should you plan to work in the weekend? So, okay, when you create a process to achieve a goal, what are the guidelines for keeping the amount of time reasonable? All right, let me see here. It's a little bit vague, Florence. So can you give me a little bit more details on what you're looking for? I guess I'll say this while we're okay. Yeah. You want? Hey, Florin.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So tell me what you're asking here. What kind of goal, like? Can you hear me? Oh, I don't know. Well, let me kind of jump into it a little bit here. So, and then you can tell me if this is answering your question. But basically, when I'm creating a goal, the biggest thing here, I think, that addresses this is the idea that you've got to break it small. Hey, okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear. I just had to switch browsers.
Okay, so yeah, so tell me a little bit more about what you're looking
so
for.
I started a new website, and I planned to create release a new post every week. But I'm not working just in one day to create that post. I'm working every day 1 hour, and just building a backlog of posts and things like that. And I was thinking, I want to add more hours of work before I go to my day job. And I was thinking, how do I know if I am trying too hard, apart from simply giving up and not wanting to do anything the next day? And also, should I plan to work in the weekends if I have a day job?
So, okay, a couple of things here. So the first thing I'll say, we'll start with that last question, right? Okay. So I would say that, like, and I think I've talked about this a few times, but you're going to have a period of time where you're going to be in hustle mode, right? Like you're going to have to go through the grind if you want to build some kind of successful business, or if you want to become successful at something. And during that period of time, you're just going to have to hustle. You're just going to have to grind. You're going to have to work the weekends. You're going to have to work after work, right? You're going to have to limit your social interactions and really just focus on grinding. And that's usually like a 2 to 3 year period. You've got to put in the work. The dues have to be paid. Pretty much everyone that I know that's built a successful business has done this. So count on doing that and putting in as much work as possible, but you're not going to be able to sustain that forever, and you don't need to, right? It's going to be something that is going to take like 2 to 3 years worth of time to be able to, put in that work. But as far as like, figuring out how much to do and so much that you don't, you're not too burned out for the next day. The best way I find to do it is to have a quota system, right? So what you want to do is you want to say how many of X that you're going to do per day, per week, per month, typically on a weekly basis, right? So if you're doing blog posts for your blog, right, start off with just doing one blog post a week and make sure that you hit that deadline every week. And once you get a system in place for creating that blog post, right, you're going to be faster, because what you'll find is that when you have to do things like that and you've got a deadline for it and you've got a quota for it, that you're going to have to develop a system, right? So when you break it apart, there's going to be components of it, right? It's going to be coming up with the ideas for the blog post. It's going to be coming up with the outline, maybe, it might be filling in the outline, might be getting images for it, might be, proofreading it, right? You're going to have a process that you're going to follow. And that's going to happen when you're forced to do it in a certain period of time, right? So, eventually maybe you get to the point where you make the quota, so you're doing 3 blog posts a week, right? You can kind of judge based on what you did the last week on what you can set your quota to, right?
Okay.
And so if you really want to be aggressive, then maybe you're setting it to doing 3 blog posts a week, and that's fine, right? It's going to just accelerate you faster through there. But you want to base it on a quota, not just on hours, because part of the reason to do this is that you need some motivation to get through. If it's just an endless slog of work that never ends, then you're not going to have much motivation. But if you say, okay, well, I have to get, 1 blog post done this week, or 2 or 3 or whatever it is, then you know that if you do it, you can work hard, you can get it done, and then you can have some free time, right? And you can enjoy yourself, or you can relax for a little bit. So it's going to motivate you to do that, and it's going to give you that downtime to be able to keep on doing it over and over again. But if you're just like, okay, I need to just work and keep on working, filling every second that I can, it's not as good. And even when I was, really in the hustle mode, doing regular job, doing Pluralsight courses, lifting, doing blog posts and YouTube videos and podcasts all at the same time, I had a quota for all those things. And usually there'd be at least a little bit of a slack time. I'd usually have a small amount of time that I could relax, or, at least I'd feel like I've gotten all the things that I need to get done for the week, that I've hit the finish line and I can reset for the next week. So I've successfully completed a week. So you need something that's going to tell you that you're done, you've accomplished the goal. That's why you don't want to just make it an endless stream of work.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, because I was using Pomodoros as a quote. So I was working 2 Pomodoros every morning, but then I can't use Pomodoros at work because the work is not focused. But yeah, if I just make a quota for the amount of work I had to get done, that's a lot easier to measure.
Yeah, and I would still do the Pomodoros, and I would still kind of measure the Pomodoros, because when you do those things together, then what happens is that, so let's say take writing a blog post, right? It's going to take you however long it's going to take you. It might take you like 4 Pomodoros or 5 Pomodoros. But if you make a quota as well, and you only have so many Pomodoro, it's going to force you to sort of time box it so that you'll actually achieve the task within the time that you've allotted for it. I mean, it's only so stretchable, right? You can't make something that's going to take 5 hours take 2, but you might be able to make something that would take like 3 hours take 2 hours, right? Because you're going to know if you're using Pomodoro, you're conscious of how much time you've already spent into it, and you can start to adapt the process, because you're like, okay, well, if I want to get 3 blog posts done a week, then I need to do each one in 3 Pomodoro. So how can I streamline that process? Okay, maybe I'll limit the words. Maybe I'm only going to make sure each blog post is a max of 1,000 words. So maybe I'm going to, you'll figure out ways to make that happen when you combine those 2 things together. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, what's up, Marco?
Hey, man, can you hear me?
Yeah.
How are you, man?
Good. How are you, man?
Great. So I have a question on fitness and fasting.
Mm-hmm.
So I've watched Elliot Holtz talk about how when you fast for a certain amount of time, the growth hormone increases by 300% or something.
Right.
When does that happen? What is the sweet spot when that starts to happen? When you lose fat and don't burn muscle, not too short, not too long of a fast, and what type of workout routine to follow while fasting? I saw him do 5x5,
Mm-hmm.
and okay, but at the end, when I will break the fast, I want to use the growth hormone to the maximum. So more bodybuilding plan is 3x10. So will I do at the end 3x10 and then break the fast, or I will still do 5x5 and then break the fast? And the different muscle groups respond to different reps and sets. So how do you go about it?
Yeah, so good question. So the studies that Elliot is referring to, I think he's getting a lot of his information from the snake diet guy. What's his name? Cole Robinson. And Cole has a lot of pseudoscience in his stuff. I like the guy. I mean, he's got a lot of good stuff. He experiments on himself, which is good. That's what I do. That's why Cole and I probably came to the same conclusions on a lot of this stuff, is because we experimented on ourselves. We tried different types of fasts. We tried different routines and work out and stuff. Sometimes, though, I think some of his advice is what he prefers to do versus what is actually most effective, which I'm probably guilty of the same. So with that said, the actual study that, and I think, let me see if I can look it up here, but I remember from the study of the HGH levels was that they showed over like a 72-hour fasting period, what the HGH levels were on average. And it started to increase dramatically after about 20 to 22 hours. And then at 48 hours was around, I think it was 40 to 48 hours was when it peaked. And in some cases, the HGH levels were over 1,000% higher. And then, and that was kind of like the diminishing returns from there. It didn't really increase from there. It started to go back down. And so that's why I like the OMAD, the 1 meal a day, is because when you're doing 1 meal a day, if you're doing it right and you're fasting for a long enough period of time, what ends up happening is that you are able to hit that 20-hour window, okay, which is really important. Because if you hit that 20-hour window, then you're maximizing that, or you're starting to get the increased HGH. Now, here's the problem with the HGH. So if you think about this, like when you initially fast, there's also some charts. I'll have to try and see if we can find them too. But where what ends up happening is when you initially fast, there is a protein breakdown. Like you do lose muscle at the very beginning of the fasting period, like probably like 10 hours in, 12 hours in. There's a slight muscle breakdown, but then as that HGH comes up, it basically it puts you more into an anabolic state. So you're not in that catabolic state losing muscle. That's what you can see in any of the charts that you see on fasting and muscle loss. You'll see that it happens at the beginning, right? And then it happens way late on, like you're talking 7-8 days into the fast. So it's muscle preserving for the rest of that period. And that's really, I think, because your body's switching over, because when it runs out of carbohydrate fuel, right, as your glycogen levels get depleted from the liver, you can only store about 200 grams in there. Then your body doesn't have the ketones it needs, right, as you go into ketosis. So the only way you can get the glucose is to break down protein, because protein can be converted into basically into carbohydrate and utilized. So I think that's why that happens. But to answer your question, okay, another piece to know here is that HGH by itself, it may preserve muscle, but it's not going to build muscle, because you need two other things in order to build muscle. You need insulin, because you need to be able to shuttle the nutrients into the muscles, and you need amino acids. Okay. And so the problem with raising the HGH and like is that you're not going to really get the benefit of it. The only benefit you're really going to get of it, from what I found, is the muscle sparing effect. But ideally, what you want to be able to do is to be able to spare muscle, okay, while you're losing fat, and then to be insulin sensitive so that when you do take in nutrients after lifting, that you get them at the right time and that they're absorbed quicker, right? And so you're primed for protein synthesis. So what I recommend to do is to fast. So, and then and not only fast. So if you look at my protocol, what I do is on cardio days, like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are cardio days for me. I will eat ketogenically. So I'll eat very, very low carb, or I'll fast. I'll do a complete fast. Okay. I'm still eating one meal a day if I'm eating, but otherwise, like today, Saturday, I may not eat anything at all today. I might eat dinner. I'm going to see what happens after I do my 6 mile run, because I'm doing a pretty hard pace run. I got to run 8 tomorrow. But if I'm feeling good, then I'm not going to eat tonight. And so what I want to do is basically stay kind of in ketosis, so that remember I said that at the beginning of the fasting, what ends up happening is you end up breaking down a little bit of protein because you don't have ketones. Well, if you do have ketones, that's not going to happen. Okay. So, but what does happen is that after I lift and I eat a little bit of carbohydrates, I have super high insulin sensitivity, and all those carbohydrates get pulled right into the muscle glycogen. So ideally what you want to do is, after you're fasting, right at the tail end of your fast, you want to lift, and you want to lift heavy. Okay. And then you want to take in a meal that has, some amount of carbohydrates in that, as well as a lot of protein. And then that's going to increase the protein synthesis at that point. Now, if you're looking to just build muscle as fast as you can, then fasting at all is not the way to do it. There's no need to fast. Like if you just want to build as much muscle as possible, the best thing that you can do is to eat like 5-6 times a day protein and just lift, right? What I'm doing, and kind of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing in the fasting benefit, is because it's able to preserve the muscle mass, right, while losing fat, and then build muscle. But if you're just trying to build muscle, if you don't care about if you're going to gain some fat, it's not a big deal. You're just trying to get in muscle as fast as possible. Then you just want to eat. You want to eat a lot. You want to eat frequently, and you want to lift heavy.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Anything else about that, or?
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thanks. That would be.
You're welcome. All right. Let me see here. What do we got here? We got Lurie. He says, I'm feeling empty spiritually. Everything is really fine, but is it okay to go to church for confession, or is there some self-maintenance procedure? Yeah, I mean, that's one's kind of hard one to answer. I'd say, you've got to have some kind of spiritual side to whatever you're doing. Like, I'm not gonna. I hate to get deep into religion here, but I think if that's something that is going to benefit you in your life, right? If you go to church for a confession, then sure, then I don't see any problem with that. But what I would say, though, also is you hit on the idea of, is there some self-maintenance procedure? And I think that's the key. Is I think a lot of people, they go to church, okay, or they go through religious activities because they are lacking something in themselves and they're looking to find it there, right? And that's not really a good solution. A lot of religions, a lot of organized religion involves basically what I would say is probably the most toxic thing that will disrupt your life more than anything else, which is guilt, right? A lot of the way that the reason why people are religious and they feel like they need to go to church and they feel like they need to confess is because of guilt. And guilt destroys us, right? Because it creates this cycle, right? What ends up happening is when we feel guilty, our actions are compelled, okay? And compelled actions are not true actions, right? They're not coming from our nature. So we feel like we're being inauthentic because we are being inauthentic, right? So if I tell you that God hates you unless you do X, and so you do X so that God doesn't hate you, or if you believe that, then when you do whatever it is, you're not doing it of your own free will. You're not doing it because you genuinely want to do it. You're doing it out of compulsion. And actions that happen out of compulsion are weak actions. And so what ends up happening is, in order for behaviors to change, our nature has to change. And so what ends up happening in that case is that compulsive behavior ends up breaking down at some point. You can't continue doing something that is not in your nature, that's against your nature. So what ends up happening is that you have a relapse, you fall back, you fall into sin, and then you feel guilty again. And because you feel guilty, you try to alleviate that guilt by, quote, being good, and it just creates this cycle, right? And this cycle doesn't even have to just involve religion, right? You can just fall into the cycle just feeling guilty yourself, right? A lot of people that get into eating disorders and have, just problems really, or maintaining weight or losing weight, they end up, binge eating. They feel guilty. Because they feel guilty, they feel depressed, they feel shitty about themselves. The only thing that makes them feel better is eating some food or indulging in the bad behavior, whatever that activity is, which then makes them feel guilty, which it's a downward spiral because you just keep on catching momentum in the wrong direction, right? So I would say that, to answer your question, if you're feeling like you're lacking spiritually, you've got to make sure that it's not out of guilt, right? You've got to, there's nothing wrong with, you can have whatever beliefs that you want, right? But you have to find a way to be comfortable with yourself, to be confident in yourself, to not be looking for something outside in order to fulfill you, right? Even religion, right? A lot of people, I'm not a person, again, I'm not going to get too in depth into religion, but a lot of people say, oh, the only thing that will fill you will be, X religion or God or whatever this is. And I firmly believe that you even that, like, how people say, okay, relationship, this person isn't going to, complete you or fill that hole in your heart. You have to fill that yourself, right? Even religion itself isn't, and you could say it's God. I mean, from a really, deep standpoint, we're all composed of this. We're all one. I believe in more of the idea that everything is one and everything is God. And so, that's the quest to me, is in the spiritual side, is to realize that it is all one, right? To be accepting of all things, right? That's the way that I think you'll truly find peace. But yeah, if you're in the guilt cycle, that's the one thing I would say. Make sure you're not in the guilt cycle. You'll recognize that if your actions are compelled because you need to be good so that God will love you, or because you've done something bad and you feel guilty and your actions are compelled by that. That's a bad place to be. And, and a lot of religious people are stuck there and they never get out, because you can never change your behavior by compulsion. Your nature has to change. And the only way that your nature changes is when you accept your current nature, right? Which may be, quote, sinful nature. And then because of your acceptance of that, now you give yourself the room to become something more that you want to be. And you don't feel guilty about what you do. You don't feel guilty about your actions. So you can actually move and change your nature. Then your actions will flow. Your actions will always flow from your nature. Whatever you do is what you are. All right. Let's see here. Looking at some more questions here. Okay. There's some good recommendations here. Trauma, Release, and Presence. Presence is an interesting book. All right, let's see. Ruben says, hi, I started doing OMAD and have 2 issues. If you have any tips. 1, it's really hard for me to get 2K calories in that hour. Eating more when I'm full makes me sick. Okay, let's see. And then 2, when fasting and doing intensive workouts, I get low blood sugar levels. Last time suffered hypoglycemia and felt quite sick for a good 40 minutes. Okay, so there's a couple of things with this, I would say. All right. I get this a lot, right? This idea of I can't get 2K calories into an hour. So there's kind of, this is how when I coach people on this directly, my coaching clients that I help them on the diet stuff, this is what I tell them. And this is, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? If there's certain people that can eat like 2K calories plus is no problem. And there are certain people that that's going to be difficult, right? It depends if you're trying to gain weight or not, right? If you're skinny and you're trying to gain weight and it's hard for you to gain weight, then you might have more of a problem with this. But what I basically start out is this, okay? If we're going to do OMAD, all right, that like I think that's optimal, because the reason why I think OMAD is optimal, right, in general, is for two reasons. One is because fasting is beneficial to your lifespan, right? It is helpful to you. In my experience, it reverses aging to some degree, or slows down aging to a large degree. Okay. So that's number one. And then number two, I feel like the insulin sensitivity that it creates when you're fasting like that actually makes your workouts and your lifting more effective, and you can actually gain muscle without gaining as much fat. Okay. But if you want to get the 2K plus calories in order to be at a surplus or to gain muscle or to get what you need, and you feel like you can't get it in one meal, the first place I'm going to start with you is I'm going to say, okay, let's do OMAD, but first I want you to eat clean. Okay. So I want you to eat, good, sources of protein, whole foods. Okay. So that would be whole meats, right? Unprocessed food, vegetables, right? Things like that. And try to get the calories in there, some rice, whatever, oatmeal, grains, the kind of stuff. Again, if you're wondering what kind of foods, it's unprocessed foods, right? Pretty much you could go to bodybuilding.com and look at any of the kind of diets that they have on there. And those foods that are in there are in there for a reason, right? Sweet potatoes, things like that, okay. So, what eating clean is, but and it can be hard to eat over 2,000 calories eating clean, which is fine. Some people can do it. I can do it easy. Okay. But if you can't, then the next phase I'm going to take you is I'm going to say, okay, well, why don't you try taking some of the clean foods out, and let's eat some very calorie dense foods. Okay. So it's real simple. I mean, like, there's no one that can't eat 2K calories in a meal. I can tell you, I don't care how small you are, you can eat 2K calories, because all I have to do is take your vegetables, okay, that you're eating, or even your meat or whatever it is. And if I take a bunch of let's say ghee, butter, right, clarified butter, and I pour that in there and cook them in there, I mean, it doesn't take much. Like the most concentrated calorie dense food is basically pure fat, which butter is pure fat, right? So we can add like 500 calories in this much volume. Okay. It's not a lot. So that's the second place I'm going to take you, is like, okay, well, let's eat some peanut butter. Let's put some, maybe not the best kind of stuff, but we're going to try and get some healthy fats in there, or macadamia nuts. Okay. Eat some macadamia nuts, eat some avocados, right? Things like that. They're going to be very, very calorie dense. Okay. And then if we still can't get you there, then the next thing would be to say, okay, well, you know what? Just go ahead and eat some junk, right? It doesn't matter. Go ahead and eat whatever you want, whatever is going to taste good to you, right? Make sure you get enough protein. Just get your protein in, and then eat the rest of it. It can just be junk. It doesn't matter, because we need to get the calories up to that point. And then if that still doesn't work, then I'm going to say, all right, just drop the OMAD. It's not worth it, right? Because if you're trying to gain muscle, okay, but you shouldn't get to that point, right? If you're really actually calculating things, and you might have to calculate your calories, and you're really trying, you can find a way to eat a lot more cheese, to eat a lot more butter, right? To eat things that it can even still be unprocessed foods, and it can be healthy fats and good, good things for you. If you eat high calorie dense foods, you can eat 2K calories, no problem, right? It's really not difficult at all. Right, you might have to cut out some of the more filling things, but it's really easy to pack that in there if you use things like butter, right? You can put butter on your oatmeal. You can there's definitely, and it's not very expensive to do that. You just add a lot more fats to the diet, but you make sure you keep your protein high. So that's yeah. So I don't know, and I get resistance for this all the time. I talk about this all the time, and what it comes down to is, if I have yet to see someone who's actually shown me their actual meal plan with the actual macronutrients, who couldn't eat 2K calories, who actually tried to engineer it to be over 2K calories after I've given this advice. So if you still are not able to eat over 2K calories in one meal after what I just said, then you're just lazy. You're just not fucking doing it. You're not actually trying and building out a meal plan that's gonna have the macronutrients that you need. So in that case, just don't do OMAD then if you don't want to. But if you want to fit in, there's no excuse. Like you're not gonna feel sick from if you eat super calorie dense foods, and you just kind of have to suck it up and train yourself. Now the second part of this, when fasting and doing intensive workouts, I get low blood sugar levels. Last time suffered from hypoglycemia. Okay, so this is just a matter of adjusting. Okay, the more that you fast and you do OMAD and you're fasting for longer periods of time and working out while fasting, what's going to happen is that your body starts to switch over from the percentage. So let's say that you go for a run. Okay, let's say that you're just eating a normal diet and you just go for a run. You don't do any fasting. Now, most of the time that you're running, your body is going to be burning up glycogen and basically running off of carbohydrates in a small percentage fat, unless you go really slow. If you go for a walk, you'll be burning mostly fat, okay? Because you have basically 3 fuel systems in your body, right? One of them is essentially fat burning, okay? The second one is to burn carbohydrates or glucose. And the third one is direct ATP, okay? That's what we do when we're doing really what HIIT is supposed to be, or lifting weights, or quick bursts of power. Okay, and so if you are not trained, okay, and your body's not used to adapting to burning fat, right? So if you do a ketogenic diet, that's one of the benefits of that. Fasting is basically a ketogenic diet, by the way. Okay, what ends up happening is that when your body's more adjusted to burning fat, it'll burn it at higher levels of intensity. Okay, that's how you get trained. You may have heard of the term getting fat adapted. Okay, that's how that happens. All right, when that happens, then if you don't have that, then when you start to exercise, what's going to happen is your body, your liver, is going to dump carbohydrates into your bloodstream. Okay, because it needs to make sure that you have enough to go. And when it runs out, your blood sugar is going to tank. Right, because it's having to dump it very quickly, right? But once you're essentially fat adapted and you burn a higher percentage of fat at when you're exercising, then that won't happen as much, right? Then what's going to happen is that your body's going to be more used to using the fat fuel, okay? And so you're not going to have that super low blood sugar, right? So it's going to take time for your body to adjust to this. And, and there's going to be times even, when you have a really intense workout where you're going to have a little bit of low blood sugar. But in general, you'll see, like, if you check your blood sugar, right, if you check it throughout the day, you'll see that it'll start to adapt as you're doing, that's why it's important that you stick with the fasting and doing 1 meal a day if you're doing that and doing the workouts, right? And I can tell you for sure, I have gone where I've done the fast, where I started the fast on Friday night, and I have run 10 miles on Saturday, and I've run 10 miles on Sunday, and I've gone to the gym and lifted weights for 2 hours on Monday, and then finally broke the fast and eaten. And during that time, my blood sugar did not drop down. I didn't pass out. I didn't go into, hypoglycemia. And the reason why is because my body was adapted to that. But if you were to just do that and you had never fasted before and you never run fasted or trained fasted, you would probably, you probably would hit hypoglycemia and possibly pass out. So for most people, it's just going to take some time. And it is possible that your blood sugar regulation is not that, but it may not adapt as fast. And, if you're overweight, especially, that could, cause that. But yeah, anyway, you got to try it out and see. But if you have problems with that, then you might have to adjust things a little bit. But all the people I've trained, they've always adapted to it eventually. It doesn't mean that you absolutely will, but that's what I would say. So, all right, Harold, what's up, man?
Hi, John. Got a question about increasing the length of the videos I'm doing for my YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
One of our fellow Bulldogs, Jay Hall, he did a really good video. It was 2 minutes long, and my videos are about 3 or 4 minutes, and I just cannot push past that amount of time. I wanted to ask you if you've always been using that MindMeister software, And what's your approach? We know guys like Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Joel Osteen. It seems they can talk for hours. They're very coherent. The presentations are absolutely fantastic. You gave a presentation called 5 Soft Skills Every Software Developer Should Know at the Xamarin Developers Conference, I think. That was an hour long. How do you develop that kind of ability to speak, and what aids are you using? I saw Jay, he was walking through the park, and I like the way his video turned out. So I have a selfie stick on order, and I'm thinking of putting a little card beside my cell phone on the selfie stick, so I've got the little points that I want to talk about, and I think that'll help me get past the 3 or 4 minute barrier. But that's my issue, how to get past that 3 or 4 minute barrier. How did you approach it when you were developing your YouTube channel?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in general, like when I'm recording videos, most of my videos I think now go like somewhere between 10 to 20 minutes. And I just riff off of, I don't have any points ahead of time most of the time. I'm just going and I'm just pulling up information, right? I'm just assuming that I'm going to be able to talk about something. I could probably talk about certain subjects for like 2 or 3 hours, and be no problem. It would seem like a short time to me, just because I've spent a lot of time thinking about these things. So that's kind of how I'm operating, right? So there's a lot of things that I've spent, pretty much any question that someone's going to ask me, any topic that I'm going to talk about, I've already gone over it before. I've already spent a lot of time thinking about it. Maybe I've read several books about it. So I'm going to have a lot to say on a lot of different topics. And that's really going to be the biggest thing, is that you spend a lot of time thinking about the subject matter, right? Maybe you've had conversations with people, and so you've got a lot of things to rehash. The deeper that your knowledge is in something, the longer and the more you're going to be able to talk about that subject. But you can do other things, right? So, for example, when I do the videos that I do for this Bulldog Mindset membership, I use that MindMeister software to do a mind map. And that helps, because then I can organize all of those thoughts, because I want to give a really in-depth coverage, right? When I'm creating a video for YouTube, I really want to hit one idea. And maybe I go off in a couple of directions with that one idea, but that's my goal. But when I'm doing the trainings for the Bulldog Mindset membership, I want to be exhaustive. I want to hit all of the details, and I don't want to leave anything out. So that also helps me, because I can talk to each one of those points, and I can do it in such a way that, it's right there. You guys can see it as well. And, I end up planning on only talking for about 30 minutes, but it ends up being about an hour or so. So that's a way to do that. You could obviously like have 2 or 3 points that you want to hit, right? I could probably actually improve my YouTube videos by thinking about it a little bit ahead of time, and having like 2 or 3 points that are pretty concise. I've debated doing that. I kind of like to just go on riffs and just talk about whatever I want to talk about that day. That's kind of the style that I prefer to go with. But yeah, I think that you just have to get used to doing it, right? And that's the thing. It's like a lot of times now, if I go and I speak at an event, I don't even have anything. Like the last few times I spoke at an event, I said, yeah, you know what? I'll just get up on stage. I'll just start talking about, whatever subject you want me to talk about. And then some people can ask me questions if they want, and we'll just keep on going. And I can just keep on going because I'm used to doing it, right? Remember, I'm doing videos every single day. I'm doing it all the time. I'm doing coaching all the time. So my head is in this space, right? So the more that you have, thought about things deeply, the more that you're going to be able to just go off of that. But it's just going to take time and practice, and as you get more comfortable in front of the camera, that's also going to help as well. And I think one thing I would say with YouTube videos also is, remember this, is that you have the power of the edit, right? So let's say that you're recording your video in the park, you've got your selfie stick and you're recording, and you're like, oh, shit, I ran out of stuff to say. So then you literally just leave the video running, leave it running, and just be like, all right, let's see, what else should I talk about? All right, just leave the video running, and then you think about it and like, oh yeah, okay. And then you just pick up right there and say, and just start going again, right? And then when you go back to your editing software to edit the video, you just cut out that whole part where you're trying to figure out what to say next. Right?
Well,
So
I noticed that you don't do that a lot. You pretty much don't do a lot of editing in your software, but there's another guy, I think it's Scotty Kilmer. He's always changing angles, and I'm thinking, that gives him a chance to make mistakes. So
yeah, just remember,
I'll keep that in mind.
Now pretty much when I record video, there's like my editor might just do some cuts to make it more interesting, but I pretty much just go on one. I don't do any kind of but I used to, when I first started doing videos and when I was doing Pluralsight courses, I would talk to myself being the editor or my editor all the time. I'd say, oh shit, let's retake that one. Okay, let's go back 5 minutes. Let me say that again. And I would do that on the camera because it's no problem. Or I would just say something and I wouldn't like the way I said it, so I would just say it again. And you've got that power when you're doing videos. So just remember that. And that's the other thing is that you'll find too, is that you can pause instead of saying instead of saying ah. And I'm still guilty of it sometimes, but when I remember it, I think, okay, I can just pause here. I can just stop. I can think about what I'm going to say. So I never have to say ah, I never have to say
Oh, so you're consciously, when you're going to say the ah, you just pause? You just stop when you're talking?
Exactly. Because a lot of times,
yeah,
right, you can think about this consciously. Like you can see when I'm specifically doing it right now in this conversation, I'm stopping. I'm not going to say ah. I'm not going to say right. I'm going to wait until I've got the thought in my head, and then I'm going to say the thought. Right. Now, it might be a little bit slow, but if you're doing this on video and you have the power of editing, those pauses are going to seem a lot less, right? So you're going to be able to just cut out all those pauses and it'll be fine. And that's going to make everything flow a little bit better, a little bit more coherent. And it's going to give you the time to think about what you want to say. Because if you run out of stuff to say, and sometimes it's not bad to run out of stuff to say, but I think the optimal video length for YouTube right now is somewhere between 8 to 14 minutes. So.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. Let's see what else we got here. All right, guys. Let me see. All right. You guys got, if anyone wants to jump on and ask another live question, let me know. You can just jump on through that link. Marco says, I love the feeling when I'm hungry. I'm sharper, more focused, and more grounded. Yeah, I agree. It's good. It's good. It depends on, I think that if I'm fasting for a long time, at some point the mental clarity starts to disappear. But in general, let's see. Tom says, John, the Hangouts link isn't working for me. What can I search for on Hangouts to join? So it should be that link there. But if you want to ask your question, Tom, just ask it in the chat and we can figure it out. Let's see. Okay. I've got a question from Jose here, and he said, how can you avoid overeating when breaking a fast? This is a pretty good one. So it's really difficult, definitely, to overeat, or it's real easy to overeat when you're breaking your fast, especially if you've been doing a long fast. The best thing to do in order to avoid overeating is, well, it depends on the length of your fast, right? So if you do, when I get fairly lean, what I like to do is, instead of doing OMAD, is I do one meal every 2 days. And that's how I avoid overeating in those cases, because when I break the fast, then I can't eat more calories than I burn in 2 days. It's just impossible. Or it's not impossible, but it's pretty damn hard. Okay, especially if you're eating somewhat clean foods. The other thing I'd say is that eating clean foods. So if you eat clean foods, you're not gonna be able to eat as much, right, when you break the fast. If you break your fast and you go to, a burger joint or Cheesecake Factory or something like that, where it's a high calorie dense foods, lots of sugar, or you go to the donut shop, yeah, you're going to be able to overeat big time. And you're going to overeat big time because your body's gonna be like, oh, I haven't had sugar, I need to store all these calories. But if you break your fast and you have, a couple of chicken breasts and some sweet potatoes and some broccoli, you may be hungry, but you're probably only going to eat still not much more than you would if you didn't fast at all, because that kind of food doesn't have that addictive type of quality. Like it doesn't send that signal to our brain, that dopamine rush that we need to get more of this and store this food like sugar does, right? So if you're avoiding bad foods, you're not going to overeat. That's probably the best advice that I can give you. And then the third thing I would say is that you have to plan things out, right? Especially if you're going to eat some kind of junk, right? So sometimes when I'm breaking a fast and maybe it's like Friday night or something, I'm going to do sort of a cheat meal, right? What I do is I say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to eat. I'm going to, if I go to the restaurant, I'm going to eat, maybe I'm going to eat something, pick a healthy thing, and then I'm going to have a dessert, and it's just going to be one dessert, and it's going to be this thing, right? So I'm planning it out ahead of time, or I'm planning my meals out ahead of time where I know that when I break the fast, okay, this is exactly the meal. I've already planned it out. I know exactly how much and what the quantity is, and I'm just going to eat this. So those are basically the ways that I do it. There's a lot of different things that you can try doing, but overall, if you're just eating clean foods, unprocessed foods, healthy foods, it's going to be hard for you to overeat because you just don't, you get satiated on those foods. Like you might still have a craving, you might want something else, but I guarantee you, like if you just sit down and eat as much chicken breasts and broccoli as you can, you're gonna not want to keep on doing that. Even though you might feel like you're still hungry, you're gonna want to stop doing that because you're not really hungry, right? You're gonna want to eat something else. You could basically stuff yourself on chicken breasts and broccoli and sweet potatoes, let's say, and then you could still feel like you could eat a donut. Okay, but you won't feel like you could eat more chicken breasts, right? So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's basically like how it works. So you want to make sure that if you only have clean whole foods available to you, then you're not going to overeat on those. And even if you do overeat on chicken breasts, I think you'll be all right. There's actually a thermic effect of protein, which is about 25% of the calories. All right, Niraj says, as a coach, what is better approach? More clients by offering one-on-one coaching first, or more content first and then think about money? Okay. As a coach, what is better approach? More clients by offering one-on-one coaching first, or more content first and then think about money? Explain to me what you mean about more content first. Like if you're talking about building a coaching business, I'm assuming. I can tell you that, like for me, I do one-on-one coaching, and when I do the one-on-one coaching, I don't know. I'll probably eventually do some kind of group coaching, but I like doing the one-on-one coaching. It depends on what you're trying to do, right? So for me, the coaching is not about making money necessarily, even though I make pretty good money doing the coaching. It's more about working with people that I want to work with, and just being able to help people that I think are going to be able to make a big impact. Right? It's expanding my impact. Let me see here. Okay, it says offering free content. My niche is German language. Okay. So here, I think I see where you're going with this. I see where you're going. Okay, so you want to offer free content first. Okay, so especially, your niche is German language, right? So if you want to build a business around this, yes, you can find one-on-one coaching clients where you can teach them German, but you're going to have to go and find those people. Where are you going to find them? They're not going to find you. And when you have to find people and they're not finding you, there's a couple of things. One, you're going to waste time finding coaching clients. Okay. And second, what's going to happen is that you're not going to be able to charge as much. When they're finding you, you don't have to waste that time, and you're going to be able to charge more money because they're actually seeking you out, right? So if you what you want to do, and this is kind of the phases of building a business that I do, is you want to create a bunch of free content first to build an audience. So if you build an audience and you get an email list of people that want to learn German language, let's say, then you're going to have the ability to get coaching clients out there for you. Some people are going to want to do one-on-one coaching with you, and so you can charge them money to do that, right? You can send an email to your list and say that you're offering the one-on-one coaching, but you could also just have your own training program, right? One-on-one coaching doesn't really scale. It's not, and it's also something that when you stop doing it, you stop making money, right? So that's why I turn down actually a lot of people that want to do one-on-one coaching with me, because I only want to have so many clients, because I don't want to have a huge number of clients. I'm doing one-on-one coaching and have this huge business doing one-on-one coaching, because even if I'm making a good amount of money doing that, you know, and I charge $1,500 a month to do the one-on-one coaching, or $3,000 depending on which option you choose, that might seem like a lot, and it is a good amount of money, but I don't want to be in a place where I have to do that. And if I stop, I'm not going to make money. And I don't want to spend a lot of my effort on something that doesn't scale. I want to do things that scale. Okay. So what you're better off doing is focusing on building up an audience around around teaching the German language. Okay. And then getting an email list, and then maybe you could even have a membership like the Bulldog Mindset membership, or you can have a course that you're selling, like a training program. And then as an upgrade, you can offer one-on-one coaching, right? But only to a limited number of people. So this way your whole business model isn't around one-on-one coaching. Because when you have your whole business around one-on-one coaching, you know, you've created a job for yourself. What's going to happen if you can't coach? What's going to happen if you don't want to do this anymore? All of your income is going to dry up and stop. Okay. And you're going to have to keep on keeping those clients happy, and you're going to have to keep those clients on. Otherwise your business, you know, fails. So I would focus on building content, and then people will come to you. You can sell them something, you can do coaching if you want to, but that's the key. All right. Let's see. Ruben says, thanks, Sean. Till I adapt to OMAD and to avoid hypoglycemia, should I eat a banana before workout, doing 24 instead of OMAD, or instead reduce the workout intensity, or any other tip till I adapt? So Ruben, I would say just suck it up, right? I wouldn't eat a banana. Like, you don't want to train your body to need the glucose. You know, if you start to get dizzy, then maybe sit down, maybe reducing the workout intensity, I would say is what, you know, I don't know what you're doing if you're running or something, but you know, I've done extremely intense workouts, completely fasted, and haven't had big problems. But you know, I don't know how you know for sure that you're running into hypoglycemia. I mean, definitely, you know, in the gym when I'm fasting and I do some heavy sets of lunges, I could definitely feel, you know, like I'm probably lower blood sugar, which I probably am at that point, but I'm not going to pass out, right? You know, so I would say work through it, right? Again, I'm not a doctor, so, you know, you can, you know, don't take this as medical advice. I'm just telling you from my experience from coaching people what I've seen and what I've done. So I would recommend working through it. All right, let's see here. Roy says, how should one balance a full-time job, a side gig to build a business, and a 4-year-old son? I don't have family to aid with raising him. I always end up choosing him, but I feel that's just an excuse. So I think that's a good question, Roy. So, you know, the thing is, like, you're just going to have to figure out how to partition your time ahead of time, because you said that you always end up choosing him, and that seems like the right answer. But I'm not going to give you the easy answer, which is to say to choose your 4-year-old son, because if you choose him now, you're not choosing him later, right? You're setting up, what you want to do is set up a future for him, and set up a future for you. And so you want to succeed, right? You're the breadwinner. You have to make the money, right? You want to build this business. It doesn't mean that you should neglect your 4-year-old son, but at the same time, you need to have a routine and a schedule. So maybe you have a schedule where, you know, in the morning before work, you do some amount of work on your side business. And then you've got your work, you go to work, okay? And then when you get home from work, maybe as soon as you get home from work, you've got maybe like a 30-minute decompression period. And then you have dinner, and you have dinner with your son. And then maybe you play with him for like an hour before, I'm sure his bedtime is probably like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. I don't know, you know, it's probably early. And then you spend the rest of the hours of that night, maybe from like 8 to 12 o'clock, working on your side business. This way you're still interacting with them. You're still, and the thing is, like, you're spending quality time with him rather than a huge quantity of time, right? And the thing about this also is you have to understand there is no easy answer to this stuff, right? Everything in life requires a sacrifice. There is nothing in life that does not require sacrifice. Every choice we make, we are sacrificing some other choice, some other opportunity. Every hour we spend of the day doing anything, we're making a sacrifice because it's an hour that we can't spend doing something else. And so you just have to choose what you're willing to sacrifice at any given time, right? And a lot of people will make the excuse, oh, you know, I would do this except for my kids. It's so important that I spend time with my kids. A lot of times that's a bullshit excuse because it's not really true. They're just doing the easy road, but instead of doing the hard road and doing what's going to be better for everyone in their lives, and realizing that they could spend still some quality time with their family, with their kids. You know, a lot of the sacrifice is going to come from not doing things that you want. When I was really in the hustle mode and working really hard and trying to build my business while I was still working, I sacrificed a lot of social interactions. I mean, I didn't do anything. I didn't watch movies, didn't watch TV, didn't do anything that was fun. Basically, all I did was work out. That's it. Work on my regular job, work on my side business, spend a little time with family, and that's it. And that was all that I had time to do. And that was the sacrifice. But that sacrifice that I made for like 2 or 3 years allowed me to live the kind of life that I live now, where I can do whatever the fuck I want, anytime that I want. And I'm basically free for the rest of my life. So that was worth it, right? So you got to kind of weigh things out and decide, is it worth it? Like sacrificing maybe a lot of time that you'd be able to spend with your son now to be able to spend more time and to be able to do awesome stuff later, right? I mean, if you think about it, like, would you say, let's say that you could hardly see your son for the next 3 years. So you'd miss out on perhaps, let's say, 3 years of his life. But, you know, in the next, after that, you'd be able to travel the world with him. You'd be able to spend as much time as you want with him. You'd be able to do all kinds of cool stuff together and stuff and spend so much time together as much as you want. And you see what I'm saying? Like, would that price be worth it? Right? I think most people would say it would be worth it, but most people don't ever make that choice because it's a hard choice to make. And again, it may not be. I'm creating a false dichotomy here, right? But I'm doing that so that you realize that there is a sacrifice. And so, but the important thing about this is, like I said, is that everything in life is a sacrifice. Every single moment that you make a choice, you're choosing to not do something else. And I think that's the key thing to realize, is that's the one resource that we cannot get back, is time. And so we have to choose very carefully how we're going to spend our time. All right, let me see what we got here. Marco wants to know, what kind of music do you listen to, John? So I don't really listen to a lot of music. Like, I don't just think I'm gonna, like, I'll listen to some music in the car, maybe sometimes when I'm running. I mostly listen to audiobooks. I'm usually listening to audiobooks when I'm running, like at 3x speed or a 3.5x speed. And yeah, I mean, if I go out, I like some EDM music. I like, I'm trying to think what, I like bands like, I'm not sure. Alexa's chiming in, but like Blink-182 and probably what would be like 90s alternative type of music, I'd say is probably my favorite. I feel like a lot of the current music is very crappy. So yeah, so I don't really listen to a lot of music though. Yeah, I just don't have time. Again, it's a sacrifice. Like, I could be listening to an audiobook. I could be learning something.
What's up, John?
What's up, Constantine? How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Yo, I got a little bit of a delay.
Oh yeah,
I'm here to ask you if you want to start a gym. I think we talked about this on Instagram a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your idea.
Sorry, one sec.
All right. While we're waiting here. Oh, Tom, don't worry. If you missed a lot of the talk, we'll have it on the member area. Like, you'll be able to watch the replay on this. So don't worry about that. Well, while I'm waiting for Constantine, I'm going to get to Marco. Marco says, how not to be jealous on girls' past boyfriends and how to let go on that ugly feeling when she leaves you and now you think about other guys fucking her. Second part would be date more girls. So, okay, this is a challenge, right? This is good. So Marco, here's the deal with this, is that the biggest way for you to not be jealous on other girls' passport? Okay, so let's break down the psychology of this, right? It's harder for me to talk with these headphones in for some reason. Why would you be jealous of girls' past boyfriends? Okay, and why would you care that a girl is going to go leave you and fuck some other guy? Okay, why would you care about that? Like, you know, if you think about the psychology of it, why does it bother you? All right, let's take the first one. Why would you be jealous of a girl's past boyfriends, whatever has happened in the past? The only reason why you would be jealous of them, okay, is because you would think that perhaps she was attracted to him more, she liked him more, she treated him better, right? That basically that he was better than you. That's the only reason why you would ever be jealous of him. That's the only reason why you would care, right? So think of it this way. Let's say that you have a girl who has a past boyfriend, and she's like, oh yeah, my past boyfriend, he was a homeless guy. Actually, I was homeless as well. I didn't ever really even like him very much at all. He was just kind of this dirty hobo. I don't know why I was with him, and he was just pathetic. He was like 80 years old. He just was an alcoholic, and I never even really loved him at all. I don't know what I was doing, right? Would you be jealous of that guy? Would you care that that was her? I mean, you might now be a little disgusted that this girl would have an ex-boyfriend like that, but I'm using it as an extreme example because what I want you to understand is that what's going on here from a psychological perspective is that you're comparing yourself to him, right? The same thing. If you think about, okay, so I don't care if some girl that I was with had previous boyfriends. I don't care if they were fucking billionaires. Doesn't fucking matter. I don't care if she goes and fucks some other guy. Doesn't matter to me, right? Why? Because I don't compare myself to those guys, right? And so that's the other thing. It's like when you're looking at this again, why do you care that this girl leaves and some other guy's fucking her? Because you care not about, you know, there's two reasons. One of them is, like I said, it's because you're jealous, is because you would be afraid that this guy is better than you in some way and that she likes him more or something like that, or that he fucks her better, right? All kinds of things, insecurities, right? All of these things where I'm trying to get to are coming from insecurities in you, okay? So the way to solve this problem is to reduce your insecurities. Looks like we got Marco here. So does that make sense, Marco?
Yeah, just a second. I should clarify my question because it was not clear in the chat. I'm not jealous on the past boyfriends, but I don't like that when she had many of them.
When she's had many of them, okay.
Yeah, I'm not jealous of them. I just don't like when she had a huge number of past boyfriends. You know, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to call a little bit of bullshit on that because it's a natural tendency to be jealous of past boyfriends. Yeah, I mean, having a lot of them for sure, that's an issue as well. But I mean, I'm still going to say,
I don't like.
Huh?
That's the main thing I don't like when she had many. I mean, I could be jealous of somebody, but I'm more jealous of the future boyfriend than of the past ones. But I don't like when she had many of them.
And why don't you like it?
The thing you explained earlier, that she would like him more and all that, but
yeah,
only for the future, not the past.
Okay, so even fine, even for the future, right? It all comes down to a level of it threatens your confidence, right? It's insecurities that you have that you project. So a lot of times when we get into relationships, a lot of it is external validation, right? We're chasing external validation. If this girl likes me, then I'm worthy. I'm worth something, right? That's what a lot of people are doing, right? And there's nothing wrong with that in the sense that we all do this, right? This is how we're kind of programmed. There's something wrong with it in the fact that if we continue to do it and think that that's going to solve our problems in life, because we're going to have to go through it. We're all going to have to go through it. We're always going to have to realize that this is not the way to be validated is from some girl. And that's the thing, is like, you can kind of gauge where your insecurities are at the more that you don't care about what what someone does, right? It's a matter of the insecurities and the options that you have, right? So if you have a lot of options as well, right? Like you said, the second part you said would be to date more girls. Yeah, that's true. If you have more options, then you don't really care what one particular girl is doing, right? If you know that you are the best, right? If you truly believe that you're the best, then it doesn't matter what someone else does. And again, this comes down to that whole idea of not having expectations on people, right? Of if you can remove expectations that you have on people, then you're going to be a lot more free, because you're going to let them do whatever they want to do. It's fine. And also I would say this is that it's again, would you want to be in a relationship with a girl that actually wants to fuck some other guy, but isn't doing it because of, quote, loyalty to you? I wouldn't. I'd be like, no, you want to fuck this guy? Just go ahead, go fuck this guy, right? Like, I might not be around, but like, I want you to be honest. Like, I want things to be. I don't want anyone ever to be in a compelled behavior to be, quote, loyal to me. Now, obviously, there's you make some choices and there's some boundaries, and like, you don't act on every single fucking instinct that you have, right? And that's just, but the choice that someone makes, like, if someone really can find someone better, then let them find someone better, right? Like, you have to kind of have that attitude, and that will make you better, right? Because most guys don't have that attitude. That's what's actually going to make you better, right? And that's what's actually going to make you have a lot more success, is because women are going to be able to detect that attitude, and they're going to be like, this guy doesn't get jealous. He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. Yeah, because he knows he has options, because he knows that he doesn't need to put expectations, because he's not getting his validation from you, right? The girl, right? Like, he doesn't need to, to prove himself. He feels fine with himself, right? If you're here, great, awesome. If you're not, if you behave in such a way that I don't like, well, then I might have to kick you to the curb. I'm not going to be angry about it, but that's just how life is. And so that's going to actually make you much more valuable as a person. So anytime that you're feeling this, like, you feel threatened, you feel like you're jealous, like you're worried about, what is this girl is she gonna fuck some other guy? Does she not, am I not so valuable that she only wants me? Anytime you're in that kind of situation, you need to reflect the mirror back to yourself and say, why do I feel insecure? Why could this girl make me feel insecure? Right. And then you also need to say, is this something that I'm willing to accept? If you feel like she's not in it enough, and she doesn't have enough, value for you, she's not committed enough to you, and she doesn't, want you enough, then just get out of the situation.
Fuck
or
her,
just
then.
accept it.
You got to demonstrate your value.
Mm-hmm.
You got to demonstrate your value, man. Yo, what's up, John? I'm finally back on.
All right. So what's up, man?
I tried to send you a long message. I was hoping you would just go through that. I don't really want to go through everything again. But I'm ready. I got my wallet right now. I'll invest right now.
Well, what do you want to?
Hey, what's going on? John Sambes here from simpleprogrammer.com.
So where do you want to build a gym? Why a gym?
I don't know. Like, I want to build like a whole bunch of shit, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, maybe New York City. Like, I live in South Carolina right now, but I lived in New York my whole life. So I probably want to have it like in New York or like Los Angeles or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not really looking at doing any kind of retail thing. Like, if I did like a gym at some point, what I'd like to do is to do sort of almost like how Elliot Hulse had like his thing, where it's like a recording studio, where what I'd really like to do is have like a camp where you come for a week, and and basically, like, maybe we charge like $10,000. You come for a week and you get your ass kicked. Basically, you go and you run, you train, you get into into the boxing ring and throw on some gloves and actually fight and actually get hit in the face.
Dude, that sounds pretty fucking sick. Like, I want to do that right now. Like, let's hop on like a push-up contest right now, you and me.
Yeah, but I don't know. But that's a little ways out. I got a lot of things that I'm working on now. But yeah, maybe in the future. We'll see. But you got any question for me or what?
Let's see. There's a lot, man. Well, all right. The real thing that I wanted to mention to you was kind of with the Bulldog Mindset Club. I feel like, I mean, this is good what you're doing. You're kind of interacting with your fans, but you're not really giving them a chance to do anything. So why don't you create some kind of like small business or something like an LLC, have some Bulldogs invest in it, see what we could all do together, instead of just like you telling us stuff. Let's all work together, and like you could take 90%, whatever, I'll get like 1%. You know what I'm saying?
Like build a business that that everyone kind of works on.
It could be any kind of business. It could be like I'm personally like a programmer. I'm a musician. I play like drums and guitar and like I sing and stuff. I'm a bodybuilder. I consider myself to be a bodybuilder. Just any of those things. I feel like you could, because you do all those things. I feel like we could all work together to do something great.
I think that's an interesting idea. I think I'd like to see people be able to do their own thing though, to be able to figure it out on their own, because I mean, if I create a business, right, and then I essentially just have people that are interested in the Bulldog Mindset membership join it and contribute and work on that business, it's not the same thing as you going out and building your own thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know,
so how about this? Like, let's say I start a business right now, and I put like whatever money into it. Would you be willing to like help out and be like, yeah, like this guy is part of the Bulldog Club or whatever. He's trying to start this club.
I would say that, yeah, I mean, it depends on, you know, I'm an advisor for a lot of different companies. And so I look at the company and I look at what the market is and what their plan is and what they're building. And yeah, you know, some of those companies I've invested money in, some of them I'm just an advisor and I have ownership just advising. But yeah, I mean, take the actions first and then let's talk.
Sounds good, man. I was trying to say this in the chat before, but I just wanted to thank you so much. Like, you giving your time here, this is more valuable than anything. Like, I'd rather you do this than like you give me like money or something like that. Honestly, like your time is so important to me. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, man. Thanks. All right, let me gonna jump to the next question here. So let's see, what do we got here? Okay. Alex says, how do you motivate yourself to continue doing something after going through severe trauma? My mind just sabotages everything, trying to protect me from future pain. So Alex, give me some more details here, man. I need to know what you're talking about here. You're being very very vague on this. If you want to jump on the call and give me some details, that'd be great. But let me see here. All right. Well, I'll start to kind of answer this question and then, oh, here we go. Oh no, Marco's here. Okay, so let me start to answer this question for Alex. So how do you motivate yourself to continue doing something after going through severe trauma? So what I'm going to assume is that like you try to do something and then you failed at it, or you're embarrassed, or something bad happened to you, and then you know your mind tells you that that you don't want to do this thing that's going to cause you pain in the future again. So it'd be good if we have a specific example. So Alex, if you've got one, you should drop it down here. But basically this. So here's what I would say. There's a couple of different concepts here that we could talk about, which is to realize, like, so one of the big philosophies that I have in life is that I either win or I learn. Okay, so it's either a win or a learn. And before I enter any kind of situation, I'm happy with either outcome. Okay, because if I win, it's great, I won. If I learn, right, then that's great because I've advanced myself. I've leveled up. I've gained experience points. Okay, I'm getting closer to the next level, and that's a good thing, right? Because every time that I go through that, I'm going to keep on growing and keep on expanding and getting better and better. And so I'm happy with either one of those outcomes. And so that's how I start an interaction, right? So, you know, let's say that I'm trying to think of, you know, let's say it's a business type of thing, right? If it's a business thing and you go up and you try to build your business, or you try to do something, or maybe you try to create a YouTube video, or you talk on stage or something like that, you're going to either have that success, right? Which is great. Otherwise, you're going to learn something. And the thing is, like, you can't have success until you have the knowledge required for success, right? So every time that you essentially fail at something, or you make a quote mistake, it always comes from one of two things. One, that you either lack the knowledge or you lack the discipline, right? And I think we talked about this maybe on the last live stream, but this is a really important concept, is it's either knowledge or discipline that you lack. And so when you don't win, when you learn, what you learn is one, what you're lacking, hopefully, and then hopefully you gain some of that, right? So if you haven't succeeded at something that you're trying to do, maybe you need to have more discipline. Okay, which is good. It's good to find that out, to learn that information, that you're lacking discipline. Or maybe you lack knowledge, in which case you know what to do. You can find more knowledge, right? So if you have that kind of perspective, it's going to stop you from having, you know, from feeling like things are a loss, right? Because you're always going to win in some way, or you're always going to advance, right? And that's what's going to keep you going, because so many things in life, you're going to have to fail 99 times in order to get one success. And so you can't just be looking for success all the time. You have to actually somewhat seek failure, right? You have to seek things that are hard, that are beyond what your capabilities are, so that you can learn, because that's the way that you're going to grow. So Alex says, yeah. Example would be growing up in an abusive family. So if you grow up in an abusive family, there's actually a good story that I think Tony Robbins talks about in one of his seminars. He talks about it all the time, but in fact, I just remembered, Harold, that's one of the other things with speaking for a long period of time, is a lot of speakers like Tony Robbins, they have the same stories. They have the same things. They've talked about these topics multiple times, so they can just riff on those. And that's the same thing. Like if you hear me on a podcast, I'll be talking about something that I've talked about before most of the time. But, and even these principles, right, of the you win or you learn, right? Something that I've done for a while. So what I say, like with the, you know, with Tony Robbins, what we talked about is this, you know, I don't remember the entire long story, but essentially there was these two brothers. Their dad was an abusive alcoholic, and the one brother became an abusive alcoholic. And they asked him, you know, why did you do that? And he said, well, because of my dad, right? Because of the example that my dad set. And then the other brother, you know, became really successful, didn't touch alcohol his whole life, and, you know, just was, you know, ended up becoming really successful in business. And he said, what caused you to do that? And he said, because of my dad, right? And so the point of that is that, like, if you grew up in an abusive family, if you grew up in trauma, whatever, we can always take adversities and we can use them to have an excuse for being a failure, right? That's the victim mindset. Or we can use them as an example of what I'm never going to fucking do, right? It taught me to become a bulldog. That's a bulldog mindset. And that's, you got to choose that path, right? If you're saying, oh, if you ever say the reason why I'm doing this, the reason why I fail, the reason why I suck, the reason why I can't be socially adjusted, or whatever it is, if you ever have a reason for that, that's the victim mindset, right? Instead, you should say the reason why I'm doing this, the reason why I won't be stopped, the reason why nothing is going to prevent me from reaching my goals in life is because of the shit that I went through as a kid, or the shit that I went through with this relationship, or the shit that I went through, you know, whatever, growing up. And I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to prove to the world something else. So that's the difference. That's the thing that you have to do, is use that as fuel, not as an excuse. You can always, any situation, right? You can take it and you can make an excuse, or you can make it as fuel to actually achieve what you want in life. And you got to make that second choice. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in the victim mindset. Any kind of excuse is always going to be a victim mindset. All right, what do we got here? Let's Ty, you got a question?
No, I don't. Just here to listen.
Okay.
Yo, what's up, John? Just wanted to jump back in. Sorry.
Yeah. Ty, can you mute your mic though?
I was here first, and I have a really short question. Can I go?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
About the jealousy thing. I was reading Robert Greene, Art of Seduction, and there he says that jealousy sometimes can be basically good, because they feel you to be a little bit jealous, and then their vanity is gratified. And is it always bad, or it can be good, as he describes it?
Jealousy is always bad when you are the jealous person. there's no benefit because it comes from weakness. It always comes from a lack, right? You can't be jealous, right? It's always showing some kind of weakness. Now, so the difference is, okay, let's say that you just met some girl, okay, and you're at some kind of nightclub or bar or something, and she starts dancing with some guy, all right, and she was talking to you. If you act jealous in that situation, it's just complete weakness. It's just pathetic. It's not going to come off very good at all. Okay. Now, let's say that you've been dating a girl for like 3 months, and you're somewhat exclusive or whatever, and you go out to a bar or something, and she starts talking to some guy in front of you. Okay. At that point, it's still, jealousy is not the answer. Okay. But you need to actually handle that situation. Right? You need to either do something and say, hey, look, what the fuck? And just say, what are you doing? And she says, oh, I'm just talking to this guy. Right? Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to leave. I'll see you. Right? Something like that. Right? So you're handling the situation. Right? You're not just being a putz, like letting yourself get walked on. But at the same time, you're not going to be jealous. Right? The jealous move would be to be like, it would be to try to be gaining her attention again, or to go up to the guy and be like, hey, what are you doing? This is my girlfriend. That's a jealous move. That's weak.
Did you talk to my girlfriend? She's my girl. You fucking liked her Instagram picture.
Exactly. Right. So you don't ever want to do that. So jealousy is always going to come off weak like that. So you're never going to want to be jealous. It doesn't mean that you don't handle situations when you need to, but yeah. So
okay, thanks.
All right.
So to jump right in here.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I think I missed the question before. Somebody asked you what kind of music you were into. You don't seem to really, I don't think you really have too many musical interests. You mentioned a couple country songs in some of your videos, but I don't know. You also had this like weird intro in some of your older videos where it was like some instrumental of like drums and guitar. So who made that for you?
Oh, I don't
remember how it goes, but like I feel like you need a better one though. Like I'll make you a free one if you want, because I'm a musician.
Okay.
Like I don't like, what kind of music do you want? Like could be anything, like something super fast, like do you want some riffs or something, or like I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
I feel like you need to have something where it's like you talking and then it's like a heavy guitar riff or something. It's like, what's up, Bulldogs? Not like in a southern accent like that, but
well, let's take this offline. Send me an email. Send me some music, some samples and stuff.
Dude, I'm always messaging you on Instagram. I don't really have a lot of social media because I'm just like fucking doing my thing. Like, but
well,
cool.
You can send me an email. I don't respond a lot on Instagram because I get like tons of messages and emails. So
yeah, you must get like freaking thousands of emails too. But anyway,
yeah,
all right, cool, man. Thanks.
All right, yeah. All right, let me see who else has a question here. All right. Okay, here we go. So Niraj, let's see, we've got only about 8 minutes left. So if you guys have some other questions, anyone wants to jump on the call and ask a question, this is kind of your last chance here. So, all right. So Niraj asks, how can I build a deeper masculine voice? I feel less confident because of my voice. Is it possible to change one's voice? If yes, what would be the best strategy to achieve this goal?
Yeah, so, anybody could honestly jump in and just change their voice however the fuck they fucking want to.
All right.
Anybody can do it, man. All right, sorry about that, man.
All right,
so peace out.
Yep. All right, so this is something that actually happened for me. If you look at some of my older videos, you can see that my voice was a lot more higher pitch. Now, this wasn't something I intentionally did, but I could backwards tell you how this probably happened. Okay, and it wasn't any kind of drugs or training, voice training or anything like that. There was a few things that happened. So this is basically the psychology. And actually, it's kind of funny. I was looking at, after this, I kind of discovered this. I said, oh, I wonder. Elliot Hulse seemed like he had some stuff on this, and he actually does have some stuff on it. And he actually came across some of the same conclusions that I did, which was a lot of it had to do with, what do they call it, bioenergetics, right? So essentially, there's a book, I can't remember the name of it. It's something fear, but essentially the concept is this, and I think this is pretty true, pretty solid concept, which is the idea that emotions get trapped in our body, right? And so a lot of the way that we carry ourselves and the tenseness that we have in our muscles, in our musculature of our body, is based on emotions that are trapped there, right? So you can notice, in fact, if you look at a person, right, if you do some people watching, right, you can see how a person walks and their kind of facial expressions and how their shoulders are and how they carry themselves. And you can pretty much guess what kind of person they are. You can guess if a person is going to be skittish, if they're going to be shy, if they're going to be bold, if they're going to be confident, right? All of these things, if they're going to be happy, if they're going to be sad, right? You can gauge a lot of stuff just by looking at someone, right? And that's because that emotional pattern is trapped inside their body, and it is causing them to tense up certain muscles, to walk a certain way, to talk a certain way, right? And so what I found with myself is that as I started working on some of this stuff, right, as I started basically, digging myself out and doing what I call, like, looking in the mirror objectively and like working on my flaws and letting go of a lot of shit, right? Becoming much more stoic, becoming more of that bulldog mindset, getting rid of all the crap, right? We have a lot of crap that we hold on to, right? Like I said, we talked about jealousy here. Jealousy comes from like a place where we feel insecure, where we feel like we're not good enough, where we feel like we need validation from other people. That's why we have that jealousy feeling. And we all have this to some degree, but some of us have been betrayed, and we've had the girlfriend that cheated on us that we love so much, and she was the whole world to us. And because of that, we're walking through life, in some way carrying that with us, like physically in our body. And it's causing us to constantly behave that way, to reinforce that about ourselves. And if we don't let go of that and let that be free and be okay with that and accept that and stop, having the fear of it, stop feeling the anger and the betrayal, all these, again, these are the trapped emotions, then what happens is we'll carry it with us all the time. And it will influence our future relationships, how we act, how we talk, how we walk, how we appear to other people, right? And so what I started doing was getting rid of all of that stuff, is basically finding all that stuff, getting rid of it, accepting it, and moving on. And realizing that most of the time that the things that people did to me were actually things that I did to myself, because I was weak, because I was unable to allow people to be what they are. And I was putting expectations on people. And when I let those expectations go, and I said, you know what? It doesn't really matter. I don't care. I'm not, they could do what they want. When I stopped trying to control people, when I stopped trying to like use people in order to get them to validate my own ego, right? And that's really what it came down to, right? Because I want someone to act a certain way towards me in order to prove that I am worthy to some degree. It escalates my value, right? Because I need that. When I stopped doing that, when I said, it doesn't matter, like this is what it is. And the reason why this person acted this way towards me was because I was of lower value to them, right? They just didn't see me as that valuable of a person. And this is why, right? Once I let go of all that stuff, that's when really I would say that my voice did change, right? Because I had that, there must have been some tension in my throat, something that was keeping me, that was making my voice pitched high. It's something that was making me feel insecure. So I was talking in a way so that was not very commanding, in a way that was very like light, like I'm trying to just say what I need to say and hopefully it's okay. Like putting it out there just like this, and then making sure that it felt okay, right? Instead of just saying it as it is, right? So I think that's there's a large degree of that. I know that you can do vocal training as well, but I think if you really want to change your behaviors, you've got to do that deep digging, right? You've got to go and you've got to find all those things, all those emotions, all those things that you've got buried. And there's some interesting, even though there's some bizarre stuff out there, there's some interesting stuff about this, right? If you go to, one of the things that helped me was Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny. When I went there, you essentially break down yourself and you figure out what your values are and what you want to make your values and how you want to rebuild yourself. And that helped a lot. If you look at, again, I can't remember the name of the book, but there's some book on bioenergetics that are kind of weird, but talk about some of this. What's his name? Also, I think there's some of this is in Jungian philosophy as well, right? In some of the what you call it, not philosophers, but psychiatrists that you can study. right? Some psychoanalysis. And then where else did I see this? Actually, a weird place I saw it was in Scientology. It seems really weird, but there's the whole Dianetics book. Again, I'm not a Scientologist, but I did read Dianetics, and they talked about pain bodies being like stored in the body, like, and not only did they talk about that, but I think Eckhart Tolle talks about that in his books, Power of Now. So there's a lot of overlap. Again, you know, just because someone says this in a book doesn't make it true, but there's this concept of essentially emotion and pain being trapped in the body, and I believe that is 100% true, because I've experienced that, and as I've let those things go, it's changed my life. So that's, you know, that's where I would look. So Julian himself on YouTube. Yeah, I think Julian is probably familiar with this stuff too. So
yo, John, I just wanted to jump in one more time with a real question this time. So have you ever read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, great, man, I'm reading that right now. I love that book.
Yeah, it's an awesome book. The audio version is really, really good, by the way.
Hell yeah. I think the same guy does the two voices, right?
I think so. Yeah, it's really good. So yeah. for everyone, if you haven't read that book, really, really good book. It's a pretty short read too. So all right, guys, I think that's about it for today. And you know, next week we're gonna try and do this. I'm trying to make this more of the regular. It should be basically like the first or second Saturday of the month. Let me see what the next one is scheduled for. This way you guys are a little bit more yeah, so it'll be Saturday the 13th of July, and you know, bring your questions, and yeah, hopefully you got some value out of this. All right, and do your homeworks in the Bulldog Mindset membership. See you guys.